Hey, what is going on, guys? This is the SS Ultimate Goku back with another video, and oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, news coming out. Um, and it's very, very unfortunate news, disappointing news for us Venom fans that get screwed over in No Way Home. So stuff has come out about the No Way Home earlier works and drafts indicates that Venom, Tom Hardy's Venom, was supposed to actually play more of a role than the role that he plays in the movie there. For spoilers who haven't seen the movie, but you should have seen it by now, Eddie Brock's Venom only appears at the end of the movie there, far away from where everything's going on. Someone had told me that he was in Mexico, and it would actually make sense since, the TV stuff speaks in Spanish there or whatever, but yeah, Eddie Brock, Venom, was supposed to be in the final battle, and they took him out. They screwed us from seeing Venom get to clash with Spider-Man. Tom Hardy's Spider-Man. Or not, Tom Holland's Spider-Man, right? The MCU Spider-Man. We were supposed to see the battle. We were supposed to see Venom finally get the goddamn freaking thing on his chest there. But no! They got rid of it and made what they did there, which made no logical sense. So what am I getting at here? So apparently, the scene where Tobey Maguire's Peter Parker Spider-Man gets stabbed by Green Goblin in the back there, Venom, Eddie Brock's Venom symbiote was supposed to go off of Eddie and merge with Peter. I don't know how long it would have lasted. Obviously just enough to basically heal him from dying or whatever there, from the fatal injuries. Probably Venom or probably Maguire would have pulled him off after that or something like that. Of the symbiote, even though this is a different symbiote compared to the Venom 3 version. But yeah, and I don't know exactly what the involvement would have been, if Eddie Brock's Venom would have been there earlier or would have been afterwards. But yeah, Venom was supposed to battle with Holland, and then probably what would have happened there was Venom probably would have been like realizing that they're the good guys and whatnot, and they would have stopped or some shit like that. I don't know. But yeah, Eddie Brock was supposed to be in this, and they screwed us. And logically, I don't understand why. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man getting stabbed in the back there was a fatal injury, okay? And somehow his Spider-Man, no explanation, somehow he doesn't die from it. It's not fatal somehow, even though the dude has been literally stabbed in the back there the same way that the freaking what was his name? The kid or whatever. The kid Green Goblin from Spider-Man 3 there. It was Harry Osborn. That is his name or whatever. He got killed the same way. He got stabbed in the back there. Got stabbed in the back. Trying to save Spider-Man, right? By Venom, the Venom 3 Venom, right? Same way, and somehow he lives. No explanation, no healing reason, nothing. Just comfort, and that's it, and he goes back to his old universe. But Venom was supposed to be there to do it, because it was supposed to be a fatal injury. But instead it wasn't, because of reasons. Because of all, like, oh, we're not going to put Venom in there, so we're just going to pretend that Maguire's Spider-Man injuries there weren't fatal. What kind of BS is this? And then you bring Venom back to the frickin' Sonyverse, and now we never get the confrontation that we were supposed to get. At least at this point. We got screwed. Still no Spider-Man in the Venomverse. And before people getting on that stupid horse ride of Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man is going to be in the Venom. I don't want Andrew Garfield's Spider-Man in the Venomverse. I wanted Venom to go up against Tom Holland. I wanted him to go up against the MCU Spider-Man. I didn't want him to go against Andrew Garfield. Okay? And I don't want it. It makes no sense. The build-up would be stupid. You know? And then we get this whole thing with the freaking bullshit about possibly what they're going to do in the MCU Venom or whatever. You know, whether it be, the only good scenario would be, it would be an adjacent version of Tom Hardy, Eddie Brock, but I don't know if they're going to do that. You know, I think it would be really stupid if they do goddamn Flash Thompson, who's not even in the goddamn military, okay? You know, Flash Thompson Venom, he doesn't look credible right now. I mean, the Flash Thompson that's in the MCU doesn't look like how he's supposed to be portrayed at all. And they want the freaking Flash Thompson, like, get out of here with that. No one wants that crap. We want Tom Hardy. Okay? You know, we want Tom Hardy to have it on his chest. We don't want a different Venom or whatever. Different Eddie Brock Venom. No, we want Tom Hardy. You know, some of these stupid Spider-Man fanboys don't understand. You know, they robbed us. They robbed us of something that was so sacred. Something that could have gotten Tom Hardy's Venom the chest symbol. And no, they ruined it. They ruined it. And I'm pissed. Because this scene actually makes sense within the movie. Tobey Maguire being stabbed in the back and somehow it's not fatal makes no goddamn sense. You know what I mean there? He doesn't have a healing factor. Okay? You know what I mean? He can't regenerate like Deadpool can. Okay? You know? So, makes no goddamn sense. This draft made more sense than the way they did the movie there at the end. And, again, the No Way Home movie, made money because of nostalgia. Okay? It made money. I mean, don't get me wrong. All these Spider-Man movies make money, but it made quadruple the normal rate, and it probably will beat out Endgame. Or if it doesn't beat out Endgame, it will be close. It'll be really, because it's already at 1.5. It's already reportedly at 1.5, and I don't even think they have I don't even think it's out in well, like I know China's supposed to get a release of it. But who the frig knows with China these days, you know, because the Venom was supposed to be in there, and they freaking cut them for some damn reason, even though they loved the first one. And so all of a sudden now it's like, oh yeah, they're not gonna show it now for no reasons. So yeah, stupid ridiculousness. Now we freaking are left high and dry for Venom 3, which is supposed to be coming out, I don't know if it comes out next year, or it's either coming, I don't think it's coming out next year, it's gonna, because we just had this movie, but it probably will come out the year after that. But, well, they did say they were already in development, so maybe it does come out in 2023. Um, but yeah, I mean, we got ripped off. We got, I feel left high and dry as a Venom fan. You know, especially since that scene would have made sense within the movie. Saving Maguire's Spider-Man so he can, do what he has to do. You know, um, which would have been kind of ironic since Venom, the original Venom, was kind of the reason why Harry died, right? So it would have been kind of poetic because it would have been the opposite type role. So I just don't understand what they were doing here. I don't agree with this decision at all. I don't know. I mean, this most likely was a Kevin Feige decision, but I think it was a stupid decision. Um, I give the criticism where criticism is due, and this is, to me, a dumb decision, and it's leaving things at the table. You know what I'm saying? It's leaving things at the table. You get that thing, and you go into Venom 3 with more distinction. I mean, I don't even agree with him getting kicked out of the MCU. I thought he should have stayed in the MCU. I didn't agree with that at all. I didn't think they were gonna end it. And now they're gonna set up a different Venom in the MCU, whether it be an adjacent Tom Hardy or it will be, someone else, another Eddie Brock or Flash Thompson. Which I think if it's Flash Thompson, it's incredibly stupid. Flash Thompson is not set up to be Venom. He's not. He is not set up to be a Venom. He's literally in freaking college, and he doesn't really act like the Flash Thompsons from the comic books and the source material at all. Like, it's just not. It would not work. Um. So yeah. Very disappointed hearing this, especially leaving stuff at the table. Venom should have been in there. Venom should have been in the fight. Venom should have saved Maguire Spider-Man. So then when it goes back to Tom Hardy, he has the goddamn thing in his chest. Now we're going to go into Venom 3, and we still don't have the thing on his chest. We still don't have the spider symbol on his chest. Still don't have it, guys. Still don't freaking have it. We still don't have the confrontation after that whole build up, and it's just leaving stuff at the table, and it really is unfortunate. It really sucks that they could not convince Feige to just do it that way. I don't know who was the decision, whether it was Sony's decision or if it was Feige's decision or what the decision ultimately came down to cut this, but I don't agree with the decision, and I think it was stupid. And as a Venom fan, because again, I don't really care about Spider-Man. I care about Venom. The Venom's my guy. You know what I'm saying? I want to see them do shit with Venom more than I want them to see do shit with Spider-Man, because I don't really care about Spider. I was never really I wasn't a Spider-Man fan. I was a Venom fan growing up. I liked Venom. I don't like Spider-Man, but I understand they're attached to each other and whatnot. But to me, it just kind of leaves Venom in a slippery slope, going forward. It kind of leaves him at the altar, basically. You got this great franchise that's being included in the MCU, and then you kick him out right away. It leaves stuff. It leaves stuff at the table, and then now you're gonna do another Venom in the MCU. And it's not probably going to be as good as Eddie Brock's, especially if it's Flash Thompson. It's gonna be terrible. I know it's gonna be terrible, because of the way Flash Thompson is in that cinematic universe. If it's an adjacent Eddie Brock, with Tom Hardy. So that's the only way that I think it could work. I mean, because they do already have Jane Jonas Jameson as, an adjacent character from the Maguire universe to the MCU universe. So it's not impossible, but I mean, it would be just kind of weird. It'd be kind of weird seeing two Venoms going on at the same time, though. because you have a film series of Venom going on right now, a trilogy right now going on, Venom in the Sony universe, and then you're gonna have a completely different Venom going on during the MCU at the exact same time. I don't like that idea, because I think that takes away from what Tom Hardy's doing right now with the character. So I'm not a fan of them doing a Venom at the same time they're doing something with Tom Hardy's Venom. I don't like that idea. And they might have two different Spider-Mans going at once, but those are established characters, though. The Maguire, the Garfield Spider, those are established Spider-Man. So you can go back and do a Spider-Man 4 of Tobey Maguire's in solo film, and you could still be doing Holland Spider-Man at the same time, or or Andrew Garfield's, and still do those solo movies, and kind of end it there, or have spin-offs within other films with it, and still have Hardy's film going on, or not Hardy, Holland's film going on in the MCU, because they can space them out each year. They can space them out each year. Like, one year you can do it that way, and then the next year you do this Spider-Man, and the next year you do that Spider-Man. I mean, that can work. You can space them out, because Sony has to keep making Spider-Man films every year anyways. And the MCU films, now, they're not going to make as much anymore, because Disney gets like 30% of the MCU films. So if they made another Spider-Man film with the past Peter Parkers, and it made close to the amount of that money, now that they've appeared in the MCU, it's going to revive those characters' franchises if they decide to do them, and they would make 100% of the profits of those particular Spider-Man films if they revisited a Spider-Man 4 of Maguire's universe and or Garfield's Amazing Spider-Man 3. Obviously the plots would be different from what they originally were supposed to be once they got canceled, but if they make money, it's going to extremely work. But with Venom, it's not the same, because Venom is in a trilogy right now. And the only other Venom besides Tom Hardy's Venom was the one that was in Spider-Man 3 that nobody really likes. And he was comic book accurate for the most part. And people didn't like him. He was more comic book accurate than Tom Hardy's was, in terms of the comic book, because the origins, of him getting the powers in the church and stuff like that, the symbiote in the church and stuff like that, that is comic book accurate. But obviously the portrayal of the character wasn't as good. And personally, a lot of people didn't like the casting of the actor that was playing the character either. But in terms of overall depictions, he was more accurate than Hardy's. Hardy's is a lot different than the comic book version. But he still makes it work. And everyone loves the Eddie Brock, everyone loves Tom Hardy Venom. But when you're telling that story at the same time, and then you're trying to introduce a different Venom in the other universe, that's going to hurt the product. Okay? And so I don't like that. And then you're going to be judgmental about the characters too. Like, oh, well, this one is terrible, and also the thing is too, is I don't think he's gonna be comic book accurate if they do an Eddie Brock in the MCU. I don't think he is gonna be comic book accurate. He can't be comic book accurate, because the MCU Spider-Man is already not comic book accurate. Okay? So he's not going to be comic book. He might be more of a villain, which would be more comic book accurate, but he's not going to have an origins like the comic books. Like, there's no way they can, because of the way Spider-Man in the MCU was created. The MCU Spider-Man is not comic book accurate. Like, regardless of what these MCU fanboys say, he is not comic book accurate at all. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man is more comic book accurate than than the MCU one. The MCU one was put in later, obviously, because Sony controls the character, and so they kind of had to figure him out better on how they were to put him. He's more like Miles Morales. His origins is more like Miles Morales than it is of actual Peter Parker, because he was being mentored by Iron Man, which is basically what Miles Morales was like, being mentored by Peter Parker Spider-Man. So when people say that the MCU Spider-Man is the most definitive comic book accurate Spider-Man, they're full of shit and don't know the character. And I'm not even that big of a Spider-Man fan, and I know more about the character than these people that say that they know about the character, because they clearly don't. Because if they did, then they would know that Spider-Man doesn't do this stuff that he does in the MCU. And again, I don't fault Kevin Feige for that, because Kevin Feige obviously kind of had to switch plans around that he originally was doing to put Spider-Man into the MCU late into it. So obviously there was really no choice in that front. But to say he's more accurate than Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, I think, is quite stupid. Spider-Man, the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man is the most. If you're talking about the most definitive, accurate comic book version of Spider-Man, it definitely is the Tobey Maguire Spider-Man. There's no question, because that is what he acts like in the comic book. That is what he acts like in almost every iteration that you see him in, whether it's the video games or the television shows. He acts more like Tobey Maguire than he does even in Andrew Garfield. Andrew Garfield acts too cool to be a better Peter Parker. But so getting back to the Venom thing, I don't think they're going to have a definitive Venom, because you can't in that universe. You can't do that in the MCU, because the MCU is not accurate when it comes to Spider-Man to begin with. Because they couldn't. They had to tell a different story for him, because those stories were already told by either Sony, or they already had an MCU established, and now they had to come up with something to kind of bring him in there that made sense. And so that's why they did it that way. That's why the MCU did it that way. And I don't fault them for doing it that way, because they had to bring Peter Parker in there. That was the contract. The contract was to bring Peter Parker in there, not Miles Morales, not Gwen Stacy or anything else. The contract was to bring Peter Parker into the MCU. And so they had to come up with a story for him that wouldn't be something that people have already seen on the big screen. And that was why they did it that way. And they used Miles Morales' storyline. But which is also very similar, and I've already said this. Someone compared this a while back, and I actually agreed with it. It's very, very comparable to Deku from My Hero Academia. All Might is the mentor of Deku, and that's basically what Iron Man was to Spider-Man in the MCU. But yeah, that's what I think. And getting back to the topic of this video, like I said, 100% don't agree with the change. I'm very pissed off about it. I think it's goddamn stupid. I think this was a very dumb decision by the MCU or Sony or whoever decided it. Venom should have been in the MCU. He should have went up against Spider-Man, and they should have kept it the way it was originally drafted, if this is true. That's all I gotta say. Comment, rate, thanks for the reviews. Please subscribe. Hit the notification bell for all the latest content. And that's about it, guys. I am the Ultimate Goku Moderator. Peace!